So today I have Shannon Morgan, and let me tell you a little bit about her story first. While her daughter was still a baby and Shannon is only 25 years old, her husband David tragically died in an accident, and he was only 28 himself. This obviously left her as a young single mom and suffering greatly after his loss. It is her journey of tears that allows her that tremendous compassion for those that have lost loved ones, whether they are human or animal, and that they have transitioned on to the spirit realm. And that is what led her to her calling in her work now, dedicating her life to the sacred work of evidential mediumship and animal communication in order to fulfill her life's purpose, and in hopes of bringing others some kind of peace or answers that maybe they're left seeking. So today she's joining us. So we're going to talk about when your gift is your mission and how to fulfill your destiny. Shannon, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And it's I don't want to say heartbreaking, but of course at that moment it is because I can't say it's not. But it's definitely, we're going to talk about that. But of course, it's the hindsight, right? It's the we're now that you lived through that we're looking at it. And that's what got you to where you are now.
Yes.
But the part that touches me is, of course, you were young. Of course, being a single mom isn't easy. Being in that situation, I'm sure, isn't easy. And that's what gives you that compassion to be able to talk to people because you know what that is. You've experienced some kind of loss. And it's not just, yes, I have this gift and I have a calling that I can talk to others on the other side. It's, I know what it feels like to want to maybe talk to them. Or can you talk to me a little bit about that? Because I am literally guessing from the bottom of my heart because I have not lived that.
So you're wondering about the process? I'm not quite sure.
No, that's fine. I know there was a question in there somewhere, but I myself just kept rambling, so don't worry about it. No, just more or less, how was the process for you to actually get to the point today that you're like, okay, I lived through that, I know what it is, and I'm ready to help others?
Okay, yes. Well, I started going public with my abilities with the animal communication first. I moved in 2012 to a new home, and my neighbor's dog got out, and she came over and said, her dog's out. If I see him, let her know. And I immediately knew where he was. I knew that he intended to come back and that everything would be fine. But I didn't tell her that because I thought she'd think I was crazy. So, but when it happened a second time, shortly thereafter, that's when I thought, I have this ability for a reason and I shouldn't be keeping it to myself. So that's when I started opening up just to my friends who I knew already knew my character. Um, so I started small with people who I already had established relationships with, and then eventually it just blossomed out to them telling other people and me being more open about it, me getting more comfortable, putting myself out there. And then at some point, um, somebody came to me for an animal communication reading, and she had a friend that she had been out of contact with for years but wondered, she suspected, I can't remember exactly how it went, but she suspected he'd passed, but she wasn't sure.
Hmm.
Um, so she asked me to try to connect with him, and I did. And I gathered that he had passed from a heart attack, and some other information that I can't even remember right now, some details. So that's how the mediumship piece transitioned into humans. Um, And because I was working initially with live animals, eventually someone asked me, well, does it work with past pets too? I said, I don't know. Let me try. So I tried, and it was the same process.
Okay.
And now that I know years later that it is a brain wave pattern that I connect with, it is science based. And if you look at Teresa Caputo, who's a well-known medium, what
Okay.
was she called? The Long Island Mediums, what she used to be called, when she had
Okay.
a that show that was called The Long Island Medium, a Dr. Daniel Amen, Amen,
Mm-hmm.
actually hooked her up to it with an EEG machine and had her read uh, her mediumship reading and was astounded at the difference in her brainwave pattern. And you can find this on YouTube.
Okay.
That video is still up on YouTube. And Tyler Henry is another well-known medium. Dr. Drew, who's he used to have a show years ago working with addicted Hollywood stars.
Okay.
He hooked Tyler up to an EEG machine and again was flabbergasted at what changes occurred while he was reading a client. So um, that's that's what I do. I just naturally had the ability to alter my brain waves, but it's like a muscle too, and the more you do it, the better you get.
Okay. And I was going to ask you about that. So, did you learn or did you just suddenly were you able to talk to animals and knew about them or connect? Because later you found out that it's that research that, okay, through the research, I found that it's that brainwave. I said it backwards. But did you just somehow started connecting? Like even when you were younger, did you just
Yes.
always, you could, I don't want to say just hear them, but could you just always communicate with them? It wasn't something that you turned on, you learned, you read a book about. It just came naturally to you, like your own sense just turned on.
Well, I had many paranormal experiences throughout my life that I kept private. It never occurred to me to talk to people about it because it was so private, and I knew it was just for me. Um, I didn't connect with animals back then the way that I do now. And as an animal communicator, it's always hardest with your own pets, because you're so invested.
Hmm.
And uh, I'm sure I relate it to taking your child to a therapist. Um, Sometimes the child shares things with an outsider that they feel comfortable with in a nurturing relationship, like a therapist,
Okay.
that they don't want mom or dad to know.
Hmm.
Sometimes they're protecting them, um, whatever the reason may be. But because we're so invested with our relationships with our pets, we're so finely intertwined, it is more difficult. I think it's because we're less objective.
Mm.
And the less I know about a pet when someone comes to me, or a loved one, if it's a human, the better my reading will be. Because what I have to do is completely set aside my ego and totally go with the flow of spirit.
Hmm.
And that is something that mediums work very hard to do. Because as a human being, our ego is there to protect us and work on our behalf. So I have to consciously set that aside to completely be open to spirit. Um, or in the case of a living animal, it's the same thing, their soul, completely be open. So the cleanest, the best readings are when I know nothing. Um, I will at some point with an animal communication ask what concerns you have, and that way I can address them with the
Hmm.
pet.
Okay. I find that fascinating. And going back to what we talked about in our pre-chat, even before coming on, it's you felt and you discovered that this is part of your mission, that this is part of your gift. And one
Yes,
of the things that we talked about was what we want to talk about also on the show here is what happens when we don't fulfill that mission? Like what happens when that gift and that mission, we don't really fulfill it to the destiny or we don't complete to what it is. And it's a shame because like you said, and there's so many different people that maybe have had what we call paranormal experiences growing up, or maybe they know they're a medium, or maybe they see angels, or maybe like all these different things. And because of everything, they don't really fully use or help others. Because for me, all of our gifts are meant to help everybody else.
absolutely.
So when you finally told, because you said you began with the people that knew you the best, how was that for you to come out of the spiritual closet in a way, or come out of this and literally feel like this is so worth me telling them because it is my mission. Talk to me about that.
It was scary. I actually, one of the first people that I told, she said to me, if you're telling me you can talk to animals, then our relationship is over.
Mm,
And I said, well, then I just won't tell you. Whereas now I would say, well, I guess you're making your choice.
right.
um, Most people were quite open to it and interested in it, um, and then utilized my ability to help in their relationships. At that time, I was heavily invested with the horse world,
Mm-hmm.
having horses of my own at that time. And horses, um, they hurt themselves often, and it can be a complicated relationship because you are so invested financially, time, with your energy. It's a lifestyle for people who
Mm-hmm.
have horses and do it right. So, um, yeah, it was, it's the same connecting with it. I connected with a lady wanted me to connect with her deceased guinea pig the other day. So we had a lovely time doing that. And she was very, very concerned that she wasn't able to be present when her little guinea pig passed away, and she was still upset about it. Um, so I was able to share with her what her little pet shared with me, that because they were so close and so bonded, uh, she would not have been able to, the little pet would not have been able to pass if she had been present. Made
Mm-hmm.
it easier for her to let go of this lifetime, this journey in that body with her beloved not there. And that gave that client a tremendous amount of comfort
Hmm.
because she felt so guilty.
Right. And I think that's beautiful about the work that you do. And again, it's fulfilling your destiny because you're not only able to help, AKA humans, but you're able to help also those souls, those pets, those animals, those beautiful beings that many of us don't have a way of communicating. And you are like that bridge between them and their, beloved family who doesn't understand, who doesn't know what's going on. So I think that the work that you do is beautiful. And the fact that you came out and you're fulfilling your destiny, you're doing your mission, again, impacts more than just who we think it impacts. It impacts everybody else. So
Yeah.
I think
It was
that's
harder to come out as a medium. That was
really
so much harder. Yes, it's
okay.
less accepted,
Really?
much less
Okay.
accepted.
Then talking
Yes,
to animals, really?
yes,
See, I
that's
live
what
in the
I have
medium
found.
world. So for me, that's why it's like, really?
Mm.
Okay.
Yes, they, yeah, I haven't, none of my friends or even acquaintances have been negative about it.
Mm-hmm.
The only a little bit of pushback I got was from a fellow who had done some work on my driveway before, and he's a fundamental Christian. I appreciate his perspective. I used to be a fundamental Christian. I'm still a Christian,
Mm-hmm.
and he thought it was a sin.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand that. At one time, I would have as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a misunderstanding. There's nothing in the Bible against it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just misunderstood. And I think a lot of people fear it, and they have a fear-based belief system
Mm-hmm.
that if they do X or Y, they're going to go to
Right.
hell damnation, and they're never going to be forgiven and all that stuff.
Right.
And my spirituality doesn't embrace that at all anymore.
Right.
It's just about love. Spiritual world spirituality is about love and growing and being supportive and being the best that we can.
Mm-hmm. And I completely agree. And now that you're talking, and I don't know if you've heard this before or not. You have such a calm energy and you have such a
Thank
beautiful,
you.
peaceful energy that so as you're talking, I can totally see why you would be open to the animals because I think a lot of the animals also have that peace and unconditional love energy. So you're at that frequency, you're at that energy where they also feel comfortable with you. So as you were talking about that, I
Mm.
completely got that. And you're right.
Mhm.
It's all absolutely love. And
They,
everybody has to go through their path. But yeah, I agree.
yes, yes. And animals, without a doubt, they need their perspective heard. If there is an unresolved issue that is occurring between an owner or someone in the family with an animal, the animal knows it. They absolutely know it. And for them to be able to express their perspective,
Hmm.
their feelings, their thoughts, um, it is one session with an animal is like 20, a human going to a therapist.
Right.
It's incredible the quick um, result that occurs because they're so open and they're not blocked unless there's trauma, and they so much want to work through that too.
Well, they are a soul also expanding and
Absolutely.
developing and growing. So I can totally see
Yes.
that. I have a question for you, and I just remember this. I don't remember where I heard it from. Is it true, lack of a better word, that when there's something happening in the family or in the household, sometimes the animals pick up on that, and instead of, let's say, this person got cancer, the animal took that on for themselves to out of love or loyalty, or I read somewhere something like that. What do you know about that, or have you heard of that or
As far
something
as
like that?
taking on physical diseases,
Not just the physical diseases, but not only can they, so yes, but not just that. It's kind of like they also pick up on what's happening in the house. And
yes.
obviously, their energy, their beings, obviously it affects them. But what have you heard about like either case?
I haven't heard anything about that, but I
Okay.
have noticed patterns.
Okay.
Um, the animals most of the time pick up on the tone of the house. If people are depressed, if there's an angry tone, um, a healthy, tone in the house, they pick it up and they absorb that energy like a sponge.
Okay.
Some more than others. A lot of it depends on how sensitive they are. My dog is half border collie, and she picks up on my emotions sometimes before I even am aware that my emotion has changed.
Mm-hmm.
I'll notice she's changed, and then I'll go, oh, she's picked that up for me. I am feeling anxious right now. Okay, calm down. Take a
Right.
breath. You know?
Right. Let's go for a walk. We both need it.
Yes, yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that's the part. Okay. On my personal part, I've never really had a pet until 4 years ago. 2020, out of nowhere, I decided I wanted a cat. And I became obsessed with I want a cat and I want a cat and I want a cat. And I went to a adoption center and I wanted a black cat. I just wanted a black cat. And
Love
I
it.
went for the black cat and I wanted the black cat and I saw the black cat. And I have never had a pet. And the black cat, I remember, I think his name was Tom. I don't remember. He was 3 years old and he stretched. And when that boy stretched, his hands reached all the way up to the handle of the door. And I was like, no, you are adorable. You are not for me because I've never had an animal. When I saw how big he was, I was like, I don't know
Mm,
if I can handle this, me, knowing me. So, they took me out of that little room where he's the biggest sweetheart. They took me out of the room, they put him back
wow.
in. I knew he would get adopted. Like he was just loving. Like I knew it was just a matter of time. But they had just brought in kittens and there was one left. And she's a calico. And that's the one that was waiting for me. And she was
Ah,
7 weeks old. And I was like,
wow.
this I can handle because she's a newborn. Like she's tiny.
Yes,
She's a 7 week old.
yes.
And she's the one that came home with me. And uh, so I have a daughter, and she had always wanted, like, she's always been into animals. I'm divorced, when she was really young. So her dad has had animals, but I haven't, like in my household. So she's always wanted one at the house. And I was like, no, no, no. I finally gave in. I let her have a dog. The dog was a beautiful dog. But I was living in an apartment at the time. Beautiful dog in the apartment. If he would hear a dog outside or when she was walking him, he was completely different. And somebody that was helping us train him was like, I recommend you take him back because he can't hurt her. He can't hurt somebody in his fierceness of trying to whatever goes through him. Um, he needs a home where there's no dogs or grass and he can run, like just no dogs in sight. So I had told my daughter, I gave you your chance for your pet. Now I want a cat. And that's when the whole cat came about. But she wanted a rabbit this time. So since I got my little kitten, I was like, if we're going to get a rabbit, this is the time you need to get her. She found her within a week. So they both came home
Oh,
at the same time. So I had the
wow.
rabbit and the kitten. So the kitten was scared of the rabbit. The rabbit has since passed. But you look
Oh,
at the cat, and I don't know because I haven't had other animals. But Valeria, my daughter, looks at her and she was like, Mom, she's laying down or doing things like the rabbit did. Like she learned from the rabbit. And I'm like, okay, like I don't know. But it's the cutest thing. And then, so going back to the thing, it's really funny because I had never experienced that kind of love or that kind of unconditional love that actually animals do. So now it's like, okay, now I understand what people are talking about.
Yes.
And in that sense, again, with what you do, I hope it's never soon. Obviously, I think it's always going to be considered too soon. But the day that the cat passes, or like even when the rabbit passed, it was hard. It was
Hmm.
really, really hard. And she really wasn't with us that long. She was with us for 2 years. The cat obviously is still with us. She's with my daughter, having a college life, by the way, enjoying college life. Um, but I can totally understand when somebody's pet goes away, it is like a loss of a loved one.
Yes. Yes. And for many people, the pets are their children.
Yeah,
Whether they have children that are grown and out of the house or they still have children, they consider them another child. A lot of people who don't have children, their pets are their children. So
right,
the bond can be profound.
right,
Definitely.
right.
Yes.
So again, I love the fact, and I want to thank you for your time because I know we're, coming to a close of the time, but it's the you coming out to owning your gift. And the gift of you doing that gifts so many other people and so many different animals. So if there's anybody, animal or not, if there's anybody that you could give a word of advice to, what would you say to them? As in, they know they have a gift, they know they've been hiding it from people, they know that it's not wrong, but they don't know how to confront. Like, what would you suggest to them?
Well, I would say, first of all, look inside your heart. And if you know that you've been given an ability that will benefit and serve other people, then that is the purpose of the ability of the gift. And to keep that does a grave disservice to what I consider source, universe, God, because it comes from that source. And you're not fulfilling your destiny. You are not. Um, you're doing yourself a huge disservice. First and foremost, you're not fulfilling your destiny. And I didn't used to believe in reincarnation. I'm a firm believer in it now. I know if I were not true to using what God has given me for the benefit of others, which oddly enough benefits me too, in ways I never connected with until the last 6 months. Um, we're all so connected. Um, the more I use my gift to serve others, the more it also edifies me because we are all connected. Um, and if I don't fulfill, if that person doesn't fulfill that part of their destiny in this life, they're going to have to do it again. They're going to be given the opportunity to do it again. I really truly believe that.
Right.
And I
And
believe that they will have some regrets. Once they're in spirit again, they'll realize that they didn't fulfill their contract with God for
Mhm.
being in this life.
And with themselves.
And oh,
Right.
for sure.
Right.
Yes, because we can't separate from God. People think God is a separate entity. It's an intertwine. Yes, there is a separateness, but we're also intertwined in a way that cannot be broken from, with God and
Right.
with each other. We just don't realize it.
Right. And I
Are
think,
often the people who give us the hardest time, which are our family members. I've learned this on my mediumship work. It's the people who challenge us the most that we don't want to be around or we don't like, who rub us the wrong way. Those are the souls who've been put in our lives for our growth,
yeah.
because it's up to us to change our response, change the dance. And it'll be a beautiful thing when you do that. It really will. Without any expectations of them, changing. It's fascinating.
Yes, very true. And you're right. Sometimes those are the hardest things that we need to do are for our biggest growth. And sometimes
Yes.
our mind takes us to this is going to be hard and scary. And maybe it's a little difficult. Maybe it's not as plain as easy for some. But I have been told of many people who've been pleasantly surprised, as in, oh yeah, I already
Yes.
knew that about you. And it's we run this thing in our head of, oh my God, it's gonna be horrible. They're gonna think this and that. And literally some of them come back like, okay, I already knew that. And like, okay. I'm not saying everybody's like that. I mean, there are some people of some
Right.
people, and I have also heard stories. But yes, so thank you so much for your words. Thank you for the work that you're doing, the
Thank
mission that
you.
you are accomplishing, and literally all the help that you're doing. Because I think either, like I said before, you're helping humans, you're helping animals, or all beings, we're all spirit, and you have that ability to literally move within the consciousness of everybody because we all one. But you have a beautiful gift, and I thank you
Thank
for it.
you. Thank you. I appreciate that. And if anyone is interested, my website is shannonmorganmedium.com, and you can read more about my story
And definitely
and book a
follow
session
you.
if you like.
Yes, and definitely follow you. You beat me to it. Yes, I want people to go ahead and follow you and connect with you because it is a beautiful thing. It really is. So thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, Shannon, for your time, and I will catch you on the next call.
All righty. Thanks.
Bye, everyone.